I'll call the August 28th, 2025 City Commission meeting to order at 4 p.m. All 5 commissioners are present. Ask you to consider the minutes and approval. Everybody good?
I have no changes.
Thank you. Financial statement. Mr. Rupp, you're on a lot tonight, Kim.
A little bit. Good afternoon, Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. This report contains financial summaries of the revenue and expenditure activities for the City of Hayes, month ended July 31, 25. Revenues in July totaled $4,719,959. That's a decrease of $249,000 when we compared to the same period last year. Notable areas of increased revenue back to July of 24. Making a period adjustment for the new rate, transient guest tax was up $29,700 or 7%, and year-to-date, transient guest tax is up 6%. Economic development increased $77,000 as a result of the first CDBG grant funding pass-through payment we made. Building permits were up $16,700, mainly due to the renovations at the Hadley Center, as well as 2 new apartment complexes. And water sales and conservation revenue were up 9% or $30,700 compared to the same period last year. Notable areas of revenue decrease. A large share of the noted decreases from miscellaneous revenue in the Airport Improvement Fund. It fell $710,000 due to reimbursements on the Kansas Highway Patrol hangar a year ago. Gas tax was off $152,600 in special highway due simply to the timing of those receipts. Miscellaneous revenue and water reserves were off $144,500 due to the reimbursement from KDOT at this time last year for the Highway 183 water line project. Expenditures in July totaled $8,150,117. That's an increase of $605,000. Some notable areas of increased expenditure. The 32nd, 33rd project begins to close out now, raising capital projects expenditures $545,000. CVB expenditures rose $10,700 for repairs to building as they had to replace their AC unit. CVB reserves increased $44,773 for the budgeted replacement of their marquee sign. And billing for health insurance was off a month, increasing that expenditure $176,000 by comparison to a year ago. Notable areas of decreased expenditure, projects for the Commission Capital Reserve were off $30,000 as designed for the 32nd, 33rd began at this time a year ago. Insurance and surety for intergovernmental fell $390,500 due simply to timing of payment for the property liability coverage. And purchase of the new fire pumper truck a year ago dropped new equipment reserves $488,000. Month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $901,793. That's an increase of $6,800 or right at 3/4%. Year-to-date general fund sales tax is still trending up $132,000, up 2.4%. 6-month average was at 1 1/4, and that was a year-over-year increase of 1 1/4. Year-to-date county sales tax collections were at $686,000, up $24,000. The report of top 10 quarter-to-date sales tax collections by classification was down $23,000 or 3/4%. Those top 10 represent 73% of the total sales tax collections for that running quarter. Finally, total par value of the U.S. Treasuries for July was $14,217,000 with a weighted average yield to maturity of 4.2%. That's down about 1/4% from a year ago. Total of the portfolio of certificates of deposit on July 31 was $55,975,325 with a weighted average rate to maturity of 4.29. That's down 3/4%. Total balance of the money market account on July 31 was $4.2 million with a current yield of 4, down 0.138. And total investments were up $4,122,763.
Make a motion to approve the July financial statement.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Musil, seconded by Commissioner Barrick. Any further discussions or questions of Mr. Rupp?
Kim, any concern with the Fed slowing rates down?
I'm sorry?
Any concern with the Fed slowing rates down potentially?
As far as sales tax is concerned, or?
No, just our investments.
No, not at this point. We do have to stay short-term. We're restricted to about a 2-year. So it might affect, but we also try to invest in treasuries when we can. So it's a wait and see, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
It's only, if they do move, it's going to be 0.25%. So
Okay,
Yeah, I was going to say it's not going to be much.
thank you.
No other questions? Call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. We have a room full of citizens. Do we have any citizen comments? You just heard how fun this is getting to be, and you're all coming. You wanted to hear all these ordinances. Very good. Please identify yourself.
I'm Aaron Dreher, maintenance guy at the trailer park and aspiring Chick-fil-A owner. I'm wondering if there's a lot of talk about these $150,000 houses in Hayes that isn't possible. I was wondering if the city would be willing to look at donating some ground, maybe that stuff by the Commerce Parkway and some other areas, but I didn't know if that would be possible, that the city could bring that up and talk about.
Everything's worth talking about.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's something we can discuss at any point in time, anything that we want to do. I think there's going to be a lot more discussion on low-income housing in the future, so we'd certainly want to keep that on the table anyway.
Okay.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else? Consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda: the Uniform Public Defense Code, the Standard Traffic Ordinance, and cereal malt beverage for the Volga German Centennial Celebration Oktoberfest.
Move for approval of the consent agenda, items A through C.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Cunningham. Any questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Oh, say nay if you don't want it. 0. Not in favor, please say nay. Thank you. Passes 5-0. I was starting to read all of these ordinance authorizing and providing before I finished the other one. Okay, Mr. Rupp, the item 6 is ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of general obligation bond series 2025-8.
good afternoon again, Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. I have with me by phone David Arterberry. He's our bond financial advisor with Stiefel Nicholas and Company. David, are you still there with me?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Sounds great, thank you. We're here for a marathon of ordinances and resolutions today. We'll go over today's results. We had the exciting bond sale, very pleased with the results of that, as well as those ordinances and resolutions to issue bonds 25A, 25B, and notes 25-1. Real quick, before we get into that, I wanted to back up just a little bit and give you a brief refresher on the purposes of the notes and bonds. The city previously approved several projects, including automated metering infrastructure, or AMI, a new police facility, the Grove RHID development, as well as an economic development grant to grow Hayes with that project. City also authorized a sale of the bonds, 25A, 25B, in order to finance that. Approval of the winning bid, the bond ordinances, and the bond resolutions will authorize the city to issue the bonds, fund the projects, and the grant. The resolution, the city previously approved projects, or a project to install infrastructure at the I-70 exit 161 for future development, and the city authorized the sale of general obligation temporary notes, series 25-1, in order to finance that. Approval of the winning bid and the note resolution will authorize the city to issue the notes, temporarily finance that portion. So on the 25A, the amounts are $3.66 million for AMI, $6.715 for the courts and police facility. The Grove is $3.765. And then the 25B is a taxable issue for $855,000 back to Grove Hayes for items not related to the infrastructure in the Grove. And then the notes are $4,035,000. So before you, on the tables there, we printed everything off because this is kind of small. We'll have Dave go over today's results and then sources and uses of the funds. He's also, to start with, he's going to talk about our bond rating as well that we mentioned last week, but I wanted to go over that. So Dave, take it away.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, as Kim was mentioning, the city got its bond rating confirmed last week by Standard & Poor's, and they confirmed the rating at the AA level, which is a very, very good rating for a city in Kansas. There are very few cities, particularly outside the metro area, that are rated higher than a AA. A few of the things that Standard & Poor's cited as supporting such a good high rating was the substantial cash balances that the city maintains. Basically, you've got a lot of money in savings, and they really like that. They like the fact that you're an economic center for your part of the state. The strong economic policies, financial policies that you have in place were also cited, as well as what they consider to be a very manageable debt burden. So all those were very positive signs that caused them to go ahead and confirm the AA rating. For the temporary notes, they assign a different rating. They assign what is called their short-term rating, and it's an S&P 1+ rating. That is the highest rating that they give to short-term obligations. So got that rating last week. After the rating was completed, then the preliminary official statement and the notice of bond sale, basically the offering documents, were finalized and distributed to investors around the country. And all that then led up to the receipt of the bids today. Bids for the Series 2025A bonds were due at 10:30 today, and you can see there the results of those. The city ended up getting a total of 3 bids. The best bid, the bid that offered the lowest interest rate, was submitted by Fidelity Capital Markets at a rate of 4.312886%. I had been estimating, I think I sent a projection over to Toby and to Kim before the sale of about 4.5 to 4.6. So I was really glad to see you come in, 0.2 of a percentage point or so below what I was anticipating. After those bids were received, we verified that the bids were mathematically correct and met all the bidding parameters, and they did. So we then confirmed with Fidelity Capital that they were the best bid, pending your approval. After that, at 11 o'clock, we then opened the bids for the 2025 B bonds and the temporary notes, and you can see the results of those sales there on your sheet. The best bid for the taxable bonds was Central States Capital at a true interest cost of 4.564904%. I have to admit, I missed the mark on this one by quite a bit. I had been anticipating an interest rate in the low 5%. So I was really pleased to see all of those rates well under that, especially that rate of Central States Capital. That's only about 3 or 4 tenths of a percentage point higher than the prevailing rate for U.S. Treasury securities. That's a very narrow spread for a taxable municipal bond to be selling above U.S. Treasury bond rates. And then finally, also at 11 o'clock, the city received bids for the temporary notes. I had been estimating a rate of about 3 to 3.2%. And the best bid there was submitted by Piper Sandler at a 2.95 to 2.96%. And like the bids for the 2025A bonds, we reviewed and confirmed all of the mathematical accuracy of the bids for Central States and for Piper Sandler, and informed them that pending the city commission's approval, they were the best bidders. We then, after we received all the bids, resized the issues to those principal amounts that you see showing on that report there. And those are the same numbers that Kim showed you previously. So that was kind of a review of the bidding. Now, in terms of the more detailed sizing, I don't know, Kim, did you want to move on to that next?
Yes, please.
Okay. Basically, unfortunately don't have in front of me exactly what you're looking at, but I do have my own version of the sizing. Oh, there we go, I can see it now. This is the detailed sizing calculation for the 2025 A bond. And you can see under the sources of funds up there, you can see the individual principal amount of bonds that were issued for each series. And Kim covered these before, the AMI at 3.66 million, police and the Groves, for a total principal amount of the for the 2025 A bonds of 14,140,000. Down below that, you can then see how all of that money is being used. The $3.6 million that's being deposited into the project fund for the AMI project is actually, that represents the principal amount of the temporary notes that will be retired. And then the 6.85 for the police facility and the 3.675 for the Groves represents the amount of money of bond proceeds that are going to be generated and available to pay those two project costs. Switching then over to the 25B bond.
Hang on just a minute, Dave. I wanted to add something here. Probably didn't do a good job of spelling this out even earlier, but of this issue, the only one that really we levy for at this point is going to be the police department, because the Grove, that's an RHID. Once that gets built out, those funds will help pay for the debt service on that. And the AMI portion is being run through the water and water reclamation budgets. So those funds, so we don't levy for those two issues. So the only one here would be the police department. And we have debt rolling off, so this kind of timed out with the debt rolling off in 2026. We didn't have to raise the levy and the bond and interest to take care of that then. So, okay, Dave.
Okay. To switch over to the 25B bonds. There's a little bit more simple calculation here, since there was only one project involved. And there you can see that the principal amount of that issue is $855,000. $825,000 of that will, even though it says project fund, that's the grant money that will be given to Grow Hayes, and then the remaining amount represents, issuance costs related to the bond. And this is also going to be repaid from these bonds. Future payments on them will be made from the RHID revenues also, hopefully. And then finally, for the temporary notes, again, it's a pretty simple sizing calculation. Total principal amount, $4,035,000. And you can see down below there, $4 million of that will then be made available for the construction of the improvements by exit 161. So, I covered a lot of ground there. Welcome any questions you might have about the rating, about the bid results, about the sizing of the issue.
Commissioners? Pretty exciting about the bond rating, our rating. When was the last time that we had that rating?
So we had the AA, so they're reaffirmed, and the AA was given to us in '24. Prior to that, I think our prior issue was for North Line Corridor, so 21, 22. So
We always
since I've been
stay
in
right
the
up
city,
there.
we had a AA minus, and a year later they raised us to a AA, and we've stayed at the AA.
No need to knock. It's called good work on your part, Kim. Thank you. Other questions or comments, Commissioners?
No, I'm glad you made the clarification on the revenue sources for how these bonds are supposed to be paid back. Especially, identifying ways where we wouldn't take these projects on until something else came off. We're not adding to the existing debt. We're basically just rolling projects. And it's you and the rest of your staff that's identifying these timings and focusing on that allows us to get the AA rating and get these interest rates that came in below what we expected. So
Dave serves as a great advocate for us too. He
Good.
does a great job.
Thank you, Dave.
He knows how to work that environment.
The interest rates are just great. They're really, really good.
So, if you don't have any comment or questions on there, I'll go into ordinances and resolutions here. We talked last week that approval of the bond ordinances and bond resolutions authorize the issuance of and prescribe the details of the bonds based upon those bids we received. Closing on the sale of bonds will occur on September 25th. Final maturity of the 25A bonds is scheduled for September 1 of 2049, and on the B bonds is 2035. We're trying to tie that B to the RHID revenues coming in and trying to get rid of that debt sooner than, particularly because it was a taxable, a little higher interest rate. Then approval of the note resolution will authorize issuance of and prescribe the form and details of the notes based upon the best bid today. Closing again is on September 25th. Final maturity on those are October 1 of 26. City anticipates issuing general obligation bonds upon completion of the Exit 161 project to pay off the notes and provide for permanent financing. So in a year we'll be back talking about that potentially, depending upon what happens with that property. So options are to approve the ordinances, resolutions, decline, and we would ask stringently if you not committed now, or provide us with other direction. And so hopefully this isn't too confusing here. We put all of these on one screen. The mayor has already introduced the very first one. So if you'd, we'll want to, obviously a motion on that, but then she's going to introduce each one before you make your motions going forward. So to start with, she's already introduced the first one, so we're just asking.
So I'll call for a motion on item 6, which is number 1 up there.
I move for approval of ordinance number 4078, authorizing the city to issue general obligation bonds, Series 2025-A, to fund AMI, the police facility, and the Grove RHID.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Cunningham. Any other questions, comments? If not, I call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. The next resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of general obligation bonds. I'll call for a vote.
Or motion.
A motion, sorry.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-013, prescribing the form and details of the city's general obligation bonds, Series 2025-A.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Cunningham, seconded by Commissioner Barrett. Any questions, comments? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2025. I'll call for a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 4079, authorizing the city to issue general obligation bonds, Series 2025-B, to fund an economic development grant.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Barrett, seconded by Commissioner Musil. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing of sale and delivery of taxable general obligation bonds. I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-014, prescribing the form and details of the city's general obligation bond, Series 2025-B.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Musil, seconded by Commissioner Reuter. Any discussion? If not, a call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2025-1. I'll call for a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-015, authorizing the issuance and prescribing the form and details of the city's general obligation temporary notes, Series 2025-1, to temporarily finance infrastructure and improvements at the I-70 exit 161 property.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Cunningham. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. And lastly, resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of taxable general obligation temporary notes, Series 2025-2.
Thank you for all that previously. Appreciate you letting me do that in all one presentation. So it can be cumbersome. So you might recall about a year ago, we did something similar to this for the police facility. When we were budgeting for 2025, we knew we would have some expenditures for that facility, including design and maybe possibly even construction. We just didn't know at the time how much or when, but we knew we'd need some cash. So we budgeted $679,000 in the bond and interest fund for temporary notes. Approval of the taxable temporary note resolution authorizes the city to issue its taxable general obligation temporary note series 25-2, the amount of $679,000 in order to pay those costs. The 25-2 notes will be purchased by the city as an investment. So this is a little different, a little twist in it. Will be retired from amounts currently available in the bond and interest fund. The city's purchase of its own notes will save costs of issuance that would be applicable otherwise if we sold like we did these others. State statute does not require an ordinance for issuance of temporary notes, so we go straight to the resolution. It's again a detail of the bonds, including redemption, security, establishment of funds and accounts, application of bond proceeds, defaults and remedies, continuing disclosures, and other miscellaneous provisions. Approval of this note resolution does count against the city's debt limit and are payable from ad valorem. However, the city currently has sufficient in the bond and interest to pay this. It will not remain outstanding. The funds in bond and interest have to go to pay off debt. So we will create the debt by transferring $679,000 from the commission capital reserve to capital projects to cover costs already incurred. That basically makes it an investment by the city. We then pay off that investment or buy our own notes by transferring the funds from bond and interest back to the commission capital reserve to pay back those bonds, those funds that are borrowed. David, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think you did a good job of explaining it. Basically, this is a way in which you can fund those projects directly with city cash, expended indirectly out of the bond and interest fund.
So options for this one: approve the resolution, decline, or provide us with other direction. And this is the motion we ask for.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-016, authorizing the issuance of the city's taxable general obligation temporary notes, series 2025-2.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Cunningham, seconded by Commissioner Barrick. Any questions or comments on this one?
Yeah, the original plan for the police station had us around, what, 12, 13 million?
It was almost 14.
Is that right?
It was closer to
14
14.
to 14 million, and we're doing it for around 7 million now? Is that right?
8.9.
8.9?
Counting the, yeah, you got to pay for the bank. to
Yep,
buy the
yep.
building.
So
They didn't just give it to us.
about 8.9, so about a $4 million.
$4 million saving at least, maybe a little more.
No, I've just wanted to verify that, and then being able to do it this way is another kudos to you.
So last year's issue was 1.3, 1.4 million. This is 679, so almost, 2 million, 2.1, 2.2 million we saved issuance costs on, so that helps in the grand scheme of things, every little bit.
Absolutely.
My only comment is, I don't know that people understand the lengths that Kim goes through with this work that he does. It's absolutely outstanding work with you and your team and our team that we work with outside of the city. It's not easy stuff, and you do an excellent job, and this timing of all this is really turning out really well. Thank you very much.
And famine.
Feast and famine, yeah, exactly. No other comments? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, passes 5-0.
David, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, item 12, Tallgrass Reinvestment Housing Incentive District, RHID discussion and the Grove update. We've had a lot of discussion about economic impact of all of the things we do in the community, and many groups that come before us talk about the economic impact of all the work we do, and the best example of that, I think, is the university. They have a great method of providing that information. So we all have been talking to Mr. Williams about that, and he agreed to put together a presentation on the impact of what an RHID can do for a community.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Doug Williams, Executive Director of Grow Hayes, and I promise you, no ordinances.
No ordinances.
votes,
You're good then.
Clean, for, at least with me. So I thank you for giving me the time to come and present some information to you. I do want to note in the audience are Chris Dreiling and Mark McCulloch, who are directors of Heart of America. We're going to be talking a lot about Heart of America in this presentation, so I want to make sure that we acknowledge their presence. I don't think there's anybody else from Heart of America here, but
Welcome and thanks for coming.
so within the last 2 or 3 weeks, the final 6 holes were dug on the 66-lot development that encompasses the Tallgrass, Heart of America's Tallgrass Edition. And so it was a good time to come and talk about what has occurred, what the economic impact, and I think what the community impacts are for a development like this, because they're a lot more than just economic, although the economic issues are very important. Sean, I want you to remember this number. Can you do that?
Yep.
Yeah, write it down.
He's writing it down.
I wouldn't
I
trust
knew
you
he
to
would.
remember the other things. To give you a little background, Heart of America purchased this land from the Lusk family in, gosh, it goes back to December 23rd of 2019, long time back. Seems like now a lot has happened, like COVID and some things like that since then. But the Lusk family was good enough to accept a price that allowed for residential development. That's sometimes a problem, finding affordable land, because it does start with land. You all approved the RHID. I think all of you except Lane, who was on the commission at that point in time, might have been Michael Burgess at that point in time, on June 7th of 2020. Took a little time to get the infrastructure done, a little more than a year. We've improved since then in terms of how long it takes to get infrastructure going. And the first houses were started in November of 2021. First house was finished in April of 2022. We developed it in phases. Phase 1 was 36 lots. Phase 2 was 18. Phase 3 was 12 lots. This is kind of how it broke down. Phase 1, the 36 lots, the maximum sales price allowed by the agreement with the builders was $225,000. Phase 2 was $235,000. Phase 3 was $325,000. The infrastructure cost $3,150,000. This is where you find out how difficult development really is. Because if you divide the cost of infrastructure by the number of lots, you see in that per lot column the cost per lot to develop it, and you see what Heart of America was willing to sell those lots to the builders that agreed to participate in this project. And there were originally 4, but only 3 ended up building homes in the development. We opened it up. We said what builders want to participate. 4 came forward and said they wanted to, but at the end of the day, only 3 did. Of particular note, I think, is that line 3 there. Those are the 12 homes on Wheatland Drive, and they cost a fortune to build. And under any other circumstance where you have a private developer, there's no way they would have done that. Makes no economic sense whatsoever to do that. But from Heart of America's standpoint, they had built sufficient RHID increment in the first 2 phases. They had the opportunity to improve a street that really needed improving, and it was a city street. The city would have had to deal with it at some point in time. So I would estimate that it saved the taxpayers $500,000-$600,000 if they would have had to replace that street in the next 5 or 10 years, which I think they would have had to provide some sort of major improvements to that street. Also helped the entryway into Fort Hays Tech, which, as we see out there, they're doing some expansion and will continue to. So lots of benefits from doing that street. And one of the real benefits of having a not-for-profit developer, they didn't care. They saw the benefit of an additional 12 homes, of the benefit of an improved street, and so they went forward and did it, even to the point where we were originally going to do an overlay of that street. Once they got into it, they discovered that the base wasn't as in good a shape as they thought it might be. And so the contractor came back and said, we really have concerns about the longevity of this base, this road. We hate to overlay asphalt when we're not sure how long it's going to last. And so Heart of America made the decision to spend an additional $180,000 to grind up the street and put down a brand new base and brand new street. So again, they really are the unsung heroes of this development. No other private developer would have ever made that kind of decision. In terms of the builders, Homes by Cornerstone, Kelly Kinky built 40 homes. 6 of them are still under construction. Platinum Builders built 21 homes. PwC built 5. And these guys have really stepped up, particularly Homes by Cornerstone and Platinum. And I'm not knocking PwC, but these guys went from building 1 or 2 homes a year to actually building at scale, which is not an easy thing to do. And Adam is here. I don't think Kelly's here, but Adam and David Spady stepped up to the plate and really met the task. And as I say, it's not easy to do in an environment like we have where subcontractors are hard to get. It's capital intensive to go from building 1 or 2 houses a year to 10 or 12. That's a lot of capital they have to put out there, a lot of risk. And yet every house they built out there sold before it was done. And these guys really did a great job. In terms of the type of people who bought these homes, breaks out roughly like this. First-time home buyers, there were 27. New people to Hayes were 17. And we're always dealing with situations where we try and hire people, then they come to Hayes and they can't find adequate housing and may not take the job because they can't find appropriate housing. This made a big dent on that situation. There were 15 upsizers and downsizers, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But what I mean by that is they had a home in Hayes that they sold, so there were 15 of those, and then 6 sold to investors. You look at the economic impact, which is kind of what I'm here today to talk about. If you use the National Association of Home Builders statistics, they say about 1.26 is a ratio that you can expect in local economic impact for the dollars that are spent. So you remember in that previous slide, there was about $19,380,000 spent. Take that times 1.26. That's $24.5 million worth of economic impact that the community experienced because of this development. Something very important to this body is sales tax, and they estimate anywhere from 50 to 60% of the cost of these improvements is materials that are subject to sales tax. So I use 50%, not 60, trying to be conservative. This is the sales tax that would have been generated by this project. 6.5% to the state, city, county, and of course the school district participates in sales tax as well. So those funds were available to go towards bond repayment and that kind of thing. Property tax, although an RHID does defer the majority of the property tax until the developer has recovered their investment, there still is property tax paid on an RHID. The state still gets their 1.5 mils. They never not get their money, it appears. And they also levy for the 20 mils that goes to schools. So that goes to the state, but ultimately it comes back to our community, some portion of it that goes towards our schools. Now that's over the remaining life of the RHID. Once it's done, it'll be at full property tax and that kind of thing, but the remaining life would estimate those to be approximately the revenues that would flow to the state of Kansas for just in the state of Kansas general fund or for schools.
Doug, what was the property tax on that property before we started building?
What's that number, Sean?
What's your number?
127.
$127.
Wow.
That's what it was before.
You knew I was going to ask that, didn't you?
You didn't do very well, Sean.
Sorry.
Again, some statistics from the National Association of Home Builders. You know, we talk about economic development all the time, and it goes back to jobs so many times. And we sometimes view jobs as only the manufacturer comes in and he hires people to build widgets or whatever it is. Well, this project developed a lot of jobs or sustained a lot of jobs as well. If you look at those statistics, roughly 116 construction jobs, 40 indirect jobs. That would be suppliers or other types of businesses that are providing products to this project. And then they talk about the ripple effect all the time that goes through the community, whether it's landlords like Aaron who are renting to contractors and subs and that kind of thing, or restaurants or clothing, people who sell clothing or buy groceries, those kind of things. Those are the ripple effects. So it affects us 260 jobs locally. They also estimate that on an ongoing basis, during the RHID, it will generate about $2,778,000 annually to the local economy. After the RHID, when they go back on the tax rolls at full bore, about $3.36 million. And the jobs, again, on an ongoing basis, are sustained from all of those activities. I'm always suspicious of statistics. You know, you always hear these economic numbers and these multiples and that kind of thing. This really, I think, tells the story. These are all the companies, and not all of them, but a large majority of the companies that provided goods and services and products to that development. And all of these companies employ people, they pay pretty well, and you can see the impact that it would have to those companies who have been providing whatever they provide for the last 3 or 4 years.
Doug, on that slide, that's just for the construction period. That's not
Correct.
That's not for any businesses that are affected after the homeowners moved in.
Yep. I don't have, I'd have to look, I don't think I have, as examples, there's a number of realtors in the room. They also participated in this, and I'll show that in a minute. But, you know, they may not have participated in the initial sale, but as we'll talk about in a second, you have the dominoes that occur in a real estate market when one person buys this, the next person buys that. So lots and lots of other people who participated in this revenue stream and continue to this day. You know, when somebody builds the house and later they have somebody come and landscape it, or they put up a fence, or they finish the basement, or they do whatever, all of those people are participating in that revenue stream. And they wouldn't if it hadn't been built, because it wouldn't be there, obviously. I want to talk a little bit about demographics again. You know, the first-time home buyers, and I've got a slide here in a minute that talks about it, but people who own homes tend to stay longer. They tend to put down roots. They tend to raise families that go to schools. They're much more stable and likely to stay in a community than people who maybe rent and have a lot more flexibility on what they may want to do. I mentioned it earlier, people coming to Hayes, we have significant challenges with hiring people, you know, whether it's doctors, nurses, college professors, teachers, whatever. We've got to have housing for those people if we expect them to be able to come here and live. And also, some of those first-time buyers, if we want our kids to stay here, if we want Fort Hays State graduates to stay here and take some of these jobs, they've got to have decent housing. And so that's an important deal. Upsizers and downsizers, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And investors, there were 6 that sold to investors. They play a vital role as well. There are people who move here who need someplace to rent. They're either not in a position to buy, or they want to look around and decide what neighborhood they want to be in, or they maybe aren't going to be here for a long time, or they just don't know. Having decent, nice places to rent is important, and we had 6 that sold to investors. This is a house that, one of the first houses out there that sold. He sold his house to this person, quite a bit less. This is a couple that downsized. They sold that house to these people, who sold that house to these people. You can see kind of a progression here. Another house, he moved out there. He sold this house, and those people bought that house. This person bought this house. He sold this one, and these people bought that one. Picture's kind of squat. I don't think they actually look like that. But you get the concept. This is how an active, robust real estate market works. And if you take the 66 homes that were built, you add the 15 who were upsizers and downsizers, you're up to 81. But then you add the additional chain of things that happened, and you probably get into the 90s, close to 100 homes became available because of this development.
In all price ranges. All price
Exactly.
ranges.
High end, low end, the works. I said it earlier, you know, home ownership adds to and stabilizes the workforce. Homeowners tend to stay in a community as opposed to be more likely to leave. They send their kids to schools. They buy cars, furniture, groceries, clothes, go to restaurants, utilize medical services, the gambit. This is what this spot looked like in 2020. This is what it looked like in May. You can take your pick, but that's what you gave up to get that. Now, to be fair, with an RHID, the city does take on certain responsibilities that they theoretically aren't getting paid for. Police protection, fire, EMS, there are some things that are provided without in theory being paid for. But I think incremental, they're very minimal relative to the gain that is experienced from a project like this. Questions?
To touch on that a little bit, I mean, yeah, police and fire, are things that we're not projecting for that development. However, a majority of those funds are paid through sales tax, not property tax. So we're not necessarily giving up a lot of it aside from the levied funds for the new equipment, but we utilize reserves heavily to make sure that those funds are available even without this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Predominantly.
Predominantly.
The fire operations, police operations are funded by sales tax. The benefits and some of the public safety equipment is funded by levy. But yes, the majority of the expenditures are sales tax related.
I think there's a perception by some that this type of incentive costs the taxpayer money. And the only way you could ever make the argument that it costs the taxpayer more dollars than they receive back is to assume that it's going to happen anyway. Yeah, if it's going to happen anyway, and those people are going to start paying property tax from day one, and they're going to have special assessments levied on their house and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it could conceivably generate revenue from day one. But the reality is, and I think the Heart of America guys could tell you, without the HO or the RHID, it wouldn't be there. It would look like that empty field.
And the Tallgrass development was already platted too, so it wasn't.
was.
I mean, when was that plat?
It was platted in 2001.
So it's out for 20 years, ready to go, and nothing happened.
Another section of Tallgrass on the other side of the street was platted in 1997, I believe, and it's still sitting there.
Still sitting there.
So an RHID is because of those economics that I showed earlier on the cost to develop and what you can expect to get for lots and that kind of thing, it is an invaluable tool to try and incent a developer to do this. Otherwise, they're just going to sit on the sideline, and that's the challenge we've had. There are not a lot of people doing development. We've had some others step up here as of late, and I hope we get some more. But at this point in time, I just can't see many developers wanting to do something without an RHID.
Don't know how they can make money doing it. I think it's important to understand Heart of America, and I've said it over and over and over again, this would never have happened without you. It would never have happened without you. So thank you very much, and please carry that back to your membership. I think that people think of Heart of America over the years as commercial development, and you were able to see what was needed in this community was housing develop and stepped up. The other piece that people forget is Mr. Williams was able to negotiate the price of that land unbelievably. What was it listed at, Doug?
I think they had it listed at $650,000 or $700,000.
And what'd you pay for it?
I think Heart of America paid $197,000.
When you go into those kinds of negotiations, you're able to do some things that don't happen normally. That's the collaboration that we've tried to have happen in this community between all of us, between Heart of America, between Grow Hayes, between the city, between the realtors. We have to have housing. It took Doug a long time to convince us, I think. You didn't bring your triangle tonight, so I was a little concerned. But there were so many pieces in this, and the development that's happening in this community would not have happened in any other way. I see Michael Graham sitting back there, the work that he's doing with multifamily, just unbelievable. So needed in this community. We're excited for it. I don't know anything that I could be more excited about than what's happening right now.
I agree 100%. Toby, when we first started using RHID, what year was that?
It became available around 2013, maybe, for when the state legislature allowed it.
But we first used it for just moderate to low income housing, right?
Your first policy had a requirement that there be a minimum, I forget the number,
Yes,
of
certain
either
amount.
low income or
Right.
income qualified units as part of a development to be able to use RHID.
And how many people use that?
Actually, nobody until
Nobody.
Yeah,
Grow Hayes.
Did we even have an application?
I don't think so.
No.
'Cause we were all very stern about it. We want it used just for low income, and it just didn't
It
happen.
didn't happen. The people that I'm not thanking enough are the Kelly Kinky with Cornerstone and Adam Prey with Platinum Group and PwC, those guys stepped up to do something that has never been done before, at least that I can remember. Doug, you've been a realtor for a long time. Have you ever seen them step up and make those kinds of commitments before?
Well, you and I are old enough to remember.
We are.
When the 1970s and 80s, they built in this fashion. Built
Right.
a lot of houses, builders built at scale. Since then, since what I would call the crash of the late 80s, nobody has really done that. It's been a very calculated 1 or 2 a year kind of process. And so this is the first time in my memory, and it goes back a long ways. It isn't very good, but it goes back a long ways. And this is the first time I've seen this in a long, long time.
All the pieces were in place, and it was important that we hear this message that you brought tonight. I know it took a lot of time to put this together, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to put another little monkey on your back a little bit, because I know the conversation's going forward, we're going to continue talking about low-income housing. The easy answer is, who's going to build low-income housing? And the easy answer is?
Well, there is no easy.
There is no easy.
No.
No one.
First, you have to define what low-income housing is. But next, we have worked with developers as of yesterday who has been trying to develop a LIHTC, low-income tax credit project, but has not been approved for that project as of yet. And I think they're kind of giving up, and I think the state may be abandoning that project altogether.
It sounds like
that
it.
Program altogether.
That was the one we provided unanimous support for, correct?
I'm sorry?
We provided unanimous support for that
Yes.
project?
Yes, we did.
Couple times. I
Multiple
think.
Yeah, multiple times.
They've taken a couple of bites at the apple, haven't had any success. They were unable to get the MIH grants that they've applied for. Fortunately, Mr. Graham was able to get some MIH tax credits, which he's bringing units to the market that are very appropriately priced rent-wise relative to what they cost. Now, again, we can all argue about what affordable or low-income housing is, but even the Stone Post, I looked yesterday, the low-income project down there, for a 3-bedroom apartment, it's $1,050 a month. So many would consider that not to be low income. So
Stone Post is, I believe it's income qualified is
Yeah.
the federal designation they use. And there is a federally designated low income. You think of some of the HUD housing and things like that. And then there's a low income segment in the housing needs assessment that we have done every year. They break down our residents into different income distributions, and there's a low income that they use.
We are more than interested in any conversation that anybody wants to bring forth about how we should be able to accomplish that in this community. It's been racking me for the last 6 months anyway, and I know we've talked about it to, commissioners have talked about it to citizens. If anybody has any solutions or any answers or wants to bring anything to the table, step up. We're happy to listen. It's just a no-win situation at this point. I'm not saying we can't figure it out. Mr. Williams has been able to figure out a lot. Maybe he can do this one too.
well, one way you do it is by building. Housing's all about supply and demand.
Right.
And we have inadequate supply and too high a demand, and that drives prices up. Also, causes some landlords to not take care of their properties. So if we can equal out that supply and demand at some level with projects like what Mr. Graham is doing, or projects like this, and make other types of housing available where some of the people that are in housing, maybe they wish they weren't in and can afford to move into that. It does open up that other housing. It forces other landlords to clean up their act if they're not. And that's how, one way you resolve housing affordability is to create a better supply and demand marketplace. But, in spite of what some people think, the realtors in this room don't set the prices on what things are worth. They work within a market of supply and demand and what the market will bear. And so getting that into the right ratio is very important. And we have a very low vacancy rate here. It causes rents to be higher than maybe we would like them to be. And so evening out that supply and demand is one way to deal with that.
I guess if it were easy, anybody could get it done. It's just not an easy situation. But like I say, we continue to listen. We continue to search for ways. Anybody that wants to come up and speak with the commission at any point in time, or come and see the city manager and discuss about anything you're interested in. Toby's always willing to have those conversations. And lastly, Doug, we will congratulate you. Without you stepping into the role of Grow Hayes, I don't believe any of this would have happened. So we're very appreciative of everything you've done. You've made a big difference in our community. Thank you.
Try and keep trying.
Yes, you have.
I did want to share a little bit about the Grove, if we're done with that, because this is another exciting project, a little different market that we're targeting in that project, but it's 108 units located to the north of Hayes Medical Center. Tomorrow morning, we'll cut the ribbon at the community center, and everybody in the room is invited to attend. It should be, it just turned out amazingly well. Bright Minds Academy opened on the 18th with 50 kids right out of the gate. The seniors moved in sometime in the middle of the month, and they're getting along well. We're going through the initial pains of why didn't you do this way, or where's this, or that kind of thing, but that's to be expected. And then the rooms that are available for community use are just terrific. So
I've walked in that building, I don't know how many times since they first broke ground, and I cannot walk into it without walking out in tears. It is an amazing accomplishment for this community, and I mean everybody in this community. I always talk about promises made and promises kept. We promised that we would do something for our seniors, and because of this and the work of Doug and everyone else, and if James were here, I'd make him stand up. He will stand up tomorrow. The grant work that he did, I can't walk into it and walk out without being in tears, because it's an amazing place, and if you have the opportunity, please go and visit it tomorrow. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So along with the community center is the residential development, retiree focused, 108 sites. 58 in the Grove proper, what we call, and then 50 in the villas that are on the corner there. They've completed all street, sewer, water, curb, gutter, and stormwater is complete. Jesse might argue a little bit about the pond we have out front, whether it's acting quite like it should, but we're gaining on it. Midwest Energy is either completing, or I think they may have completed this week, the electric and gas. So we're ready to roll. We've got everything complete, and the plan is to start somewhere between 7 and 10 homes in the next 30 to 45 days. We have some buyers lined up. The contractor has agreed to put up some specs, and so we're hoping to get started. And like Tallgrass was, activity generates activity, and so you start to see people out there living, things going on. Other people are going to want to be there. The community center, the Center for Health Improvement, the location is just perfect for this, and so I think it's going to develop as fast or faster than the Tallgrass did, and so we're excited to get started. The villas are going to be about a year behind that. We've got the house there that, again, I'll advertise. It's out for sealed bid up till September 1st if somebody wants to buy it and move it off. Aaron, you're kind of an enterprising kind of guy. But we would like somebody to move it off rather than have to demolish it, have it serve a purpose someplace else. But there is a point where we've got to move forward and level that site and get it ready for the villas. So that's our plan. That's kind of our rough time frame that we're looking at. And the one thing I've learned with all this is nothing ever happens in the time frame that you think it's going to. So that's our
Especially the
hope.
ones you usually say. Doug's very optimistic.
I just have no patience. At my age, you can't.
That's right.
You
No
gotta try and
patience.
push things along. So anyway, that's what's going on at the Grove. I've taken up more time than I probably deserve, but any other questions on that or anything else?
Doug, I know this conversation started with the Grove kind of after it was an initial report, in 2019, that kind of did an economic impact study of Ellis County and showing retirees are our number one economic driver. That's kind of what led into this conversation, correct?
It is. We had that study done. It showed the importance of retirees. Also, at the same time, child care was a huge issue. So we thought, how could we combine that? And this multi-generational aspect of child care and putting retirees and kids together in a multi-generational environment had a lot of momentum in certain parts of the country. So it was a great concept to write a grant for, and that's kind of how we started on this. We were very fortunate that the hospital bought into it, and they owned the land, and they were willing to donate the land for the community center. They sold us the land for the Grove on a very attractive, dollar down, dollar a month kind of arrangement, where we pay for lots as we sell them, where we didn't have to come up with a huge sum of money. And so that has kind of been the impetus for all of it, is what a great location, what a great market. We think it's a great recruiting tool for the community to recruit this age group of people, with the hospital right next door and all the amenities. We extended the multi-use path through it. We're extending it to Sternberg, and next summer or sometime we'll extend it to Hall Street. And so just the right spot and the right project.
That was the big selling point, right? That everybody there could get to Sternberg really easily.
Really easily.
It's going to be a one-way track.
Yeah.
Sean, the number on that lot was 0 for the city,
Oh, yeah.
because that wasn't in the city limits.
I know that.
The other thing I would mention, the earlier in Kim's presentation, that it talks about this grant to grow haze for this infrastructure. I have no idea whether they use grant, because it is not a grant.
We have to
We're being
comply with
reimbursed.
state laws, Doug.
Whatever. That is going towards the reimbursement for the Midwest Energy costs, the cost of buying the land from the McGinnis family, and some engineering and that kind of thing, based on our development agreement with the city. So just so nobody mistakes, this is not a grant to grow haze in the true sense, at least the way I look at grants. So anyway, I'll say that.
Well, we appreciate you coming very much, and like I said, this was a lot of work. It tells you, when you talk about community, this is community. This is how it happens, with everybody working together and collaborating. So thanks for going through the work, and I hope you're making that presentation at other places.
At the county on Tuesday, and the school district at some point thereafter, because all of those entities, those two entities, had to agree to the tax
Exactly.
deferment as well. So they're a big part of this as well.
We'll get it out to the community. Thank you, Doug. We appreciate your time.
Hey, Doug, could you send that out to us,
Sure.
please?
You're talking about?
The presentation.
The presentation.
PowerPoint.
Sure.
Yeah, we can send that out.
Okay.
We'll clip it and send it
Okay,
to you.
thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Doug.
Patiently waiting. Airport parking lot expansion award a bid. Jamie.
Doug, that's a hard act to follow. Jamie Salter, Director of Hayes Regional Airport. Annual employments at the airport have more than doubled in the past 10 years. I have got a note there, and that's all with SkyWest. It's important to note. They came on in 2014, so 2015 was their first full year with the airport, and we're projecting about 17,000 people on the low end. It might be closer to about 18,000 this year by year end, as far as annual employments outbound from the airport. Terminal parking lot was expanded in 2018, but existing capacity does not meet our current demand or future anticipated demand. Many times vehicles, if you've been out there, you've seen it, I've got a few pictures there, but they're parking in, that actually was a staging area for one of the contractors, and we just had them leave it there because we needed space, and it's better for them to park at least on gravel versus on the grass. So we just had them leave it there. So to accommodate the current and future needs of the airport's traveling public, we actually contracted with Driggs Design Group to provide design services for a paved expansion to the existing passenger parking lot. This expansion would bring the total paid parking capacity available for passengers to 164 spaces. In green there is what we're looking to expand it to. That I know that Mayor Jacobs had asked about rental cars for last year, or I'm sorry, that rent space out there. We do. I cut that off there at the very south end, so north being top of the screen there, south on the bottom. That actually there is parking availability down south to the fence line. Excuse me. But that is actually designated for employee parking. So TSA, SkyWest, FBO need parking spaces. And then Hertz is one of the rental car companies out there. They lease space out there. So they lease those. We're obligated to provide those spaces for them because they pay for them. So they don't utilize that space. So if you do go out there and you actually count spaces, it's going to be more, but that's because we need to provide paid parking for per lease agreements for Hertz, FBO, SkyWest, and TSA. Bids for the expansion of the airport terminal parking lot were opened on July 29th, and we received 5 bids from different contractors, with low bid coming in under budget from Morgan Brothers Construction at just over $248,000. Morgan Brothers Construction has completed several successful projects for the city in the past. I know that project manager Tom Howie and Commissioner Cunningham had discussed as far as Morgan Brothers and what they've managed to turn around in recent years. I know right now that they're performing various 2025 street maintenance projects. That includes curb and brick repair, concrete alley reconstruction, and the 19th Street pavement rehab. Last week, Commissioner Musil also asked for clarification on bid submittals. Hess Services appeared incomplete on the bid tabs. Bidders were actually given 2 options, KDOT and then non-KDOT specs, and they had the option to choose one or the other. Hess was the only one that bid on both. So as it was reflected, it appeared to be a blank line, but it actually was reflected separately on the bottom of that bid tabs. This project came in under budget. We had budgeted for design and construction $350,000. Adequate funds are available in the Airport Improvement Fund to pay for the total allowable project cost, $294,000. Last week, Commissioner Barrick commented, I'm not trying to steal your thunder here, but I want to make sure, commented on how competitive the bids were and how they all came in under budget. He also thought it was important to note this isn't a build it and hope they come. They're already here. So expansion is necessary to meet current needs, and we did build in for future needs as well. This project will begin in September to be completed by the end of 2025. Last week, Vice Mayor Reuter asked, you guys had a lot of questions last week, asked if the contractor would need to utilize any of the paved areas for staging, and they will not. If they do have to stage, we'll probably stage them in the gravel parking lot, because essentially that was what it was designated for anyway.
Thank you.
The commission has these following options, and this is the action requested. I will stand for any questions.
I move to accept the bid from Morgan Brothers Construction, Inc. in the amount of $248,019.98 and authorize a total project expenditure not to exceed $295,519.98 to expand the terminal passenger parking lot at the Hayes Regional Airport to be paid from the Airport Improvement Fund.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Reuter, second by Commissioner Cunningham. Discussion?
Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
I was asked by somebody this week about, we're doing this expansion, and they're worried that the future, if if the airline drops down, is this really needed? What is your thoughts on the future in the next 6 months to a year or longer?
We regularly speak with SkyWest. Recently, I went down to Utah to meet with them as far as just discussing performance and future needs and that type of. They don't have necessarily the pilot shortage that they were facing. SkyWest did submit, so our essentially our service program, this Hayes is part of that. I know that we've discussed that at past commission meetings, but they actually bid on the Hayes route, and we were actually their first 3-year contract in 2018-ish, and they've continued to do that since then. So last year was a new 3-year contract, so they are devoted to us for the next 3 years. I don't anticipate anything changing on that, and they don't anticipate any changes on flight schedule either. It is set. We are one of the very few communities in the ES market that have the remain overnight or RON, meaning we've got the really late inbound, early outbound. That I think that's the kicker right there, and what makes such an impact on employments is having that early morning departure. So we're one of the very few communities that have that, and they don't see. They have not indicated any sort of change in that flight schedule.
Thank you.
When you talk about planning for the future beyond what our current needs are, how do you come up with that identification?
You can look at, it's impossible for us to gain what we've gained, in the last 10 years. I don't see employments. That would be great if they did, but I think a reasonable, 3 to 5%, is probably what we could obtain. We could do more, but I think that's reasonable. Just like anything else with growth, I think that's that's probably what we see. I think marketing, we've been very aggressive on that, makes a big difference. SkyWest performance is excellent. So if, I mean, I think it's word of mouth too, discussing with others what kind of experiences they've had once they try it. I don't think that they go back to anything else. I know there's lots of people that I hear from that say, I haven't tried it, or I didn't even know we had jet service, tried it, and they're hooked to that now and don't look really anywhere else. So
We don't dare change anything
yes.
right now.
And I think just like we
Really
did in
happy.
2018, we I mean, expanded then to meet almost current needs at the time. I mean, we always have the option to do that as well with this. This is an easier project than some of the other capacity needs.
This is a good problem to have.
Yes.
Yes. We were fortunate to have Representative Tracy Mann stop in Hayes this week. He was out here Monday and spent some time out at the airport. Commissioners were there, as was Jamie, and Jamie got to talk to him about everything that we're doing out there. And to say that he was impressed with our airport and with Jamie is not, he was very impressed. I guess that's the best way to put it. He said, we're very lucky to have you, and he was very impressed with all the information and the knowledge you had. So we appreciate you, Jamie. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I just think it's one of the things that we can, Representative Mann talked about was that he thinks the EAS is not going away, and we can thank the community when we asked the community to get a hold of their representatives. It happened, and I think we talk about what's going to happen in the next 6 months or a year. EAS is stable. What Jamie's worked on, we're hitting records for emplanements, and not that we're going to double our emplanements, but I think we're going to be stable to growing for the next number of years. So I think that's a compliment to Jamie and to the whole community and stepping up and realizing exactly how important the airport is to sort of the lifeblood of the community. So we appreciate you.
Do I remember correctly, we're projecting outbound to 18,000 this year?
I put 17,000 on here because I like to shoot low and bring in high.
We're gonna
but
say
I
18,
think-
Jamie.
Yeah, I think it probably will be closer to that.
Very good. Okay, can I call for a vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Rezoning request for public and institutional district to residential multifamily district for the proposed Lincoln School apartment complex at 1906 Ash. Jesse.
Nobody ever stays for my part at the end. Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. My item today is to ask you to consider a rezoning request for a property here in the middle of town. Just to get you familiar with the property, most of us know where the Lincoln School property is on between Fort and Ash on 20th Street. So this is the property we're talking about. You can see on the picture on the right there the school building and the playground area. The city did recently receive a application to change zoning from public and institutional district to residential multifamily for new use, new development proposed by developer Michael Graham. This is just a conceptual drawing, subject to change of course, but on the left-hand side of the drawing you can see the existing school. The plan is for that to be converted into 26 to 28 1 and 2 family or 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and then construct up to 7 or so duplex units or fourplexes on the east side of the property. I will say, again, this is an infill project. There are no new city streets, city water, or city sewer being constructed for this project, so it's all using existing infrastructure. The current zoning, again, I mentioned, is public and institutional district. It's zoned that way because that is what was the zoning designation of the various school districts or school properties here in town. The property is surrounded, as you can see, by what we call NC3 or Neighborhood Conservation District, and that is primarily comprised of 1 and 2 family dwellings. The comprehensive plan, this is a snippet of the future land use map found within the comprehensive plan, designates the area as civic. Again, the comprehensive plan and the zoning regulations have different designations, but essentially they mean the same thing. Public and institution is very close or very similar to civic uses. Again, the civic designates school areas and other government entities in the city of Hayes. With all zonings or rezoning requests that we bring to you, we want to show you the various uses that could go on the property if, in this case, it's zoned to residential multifamily or RM. So there's 3 types of uses. The first one being uses by right. These uses, if the property does get rezoned, are fair game on the property. There's no other administrative or other approvals necessary. Compared to the second group here, what we call limited uses, these are also allowed on the property. However, within our Unified Development Code, each of these carry a specific criteria necessary if someone were going to rezone to one of these uses. However, that criteria is just administratively approved by staff. And the third group are uses by exception. If any of these were to be proposed on a property zoned RM, it would first have to go to the Board of Zoning for a public hearing, notification of all surrounding property owners, and go through that process before one of these could be approved. Your options on the zoning request today would be to approve as submitted. You could send it back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. This was approved unanimously by the Planning Commission at the public hearing. Or if you chose to, you could override the Planning Commission's recommendation, and if you choose to do so, that would take 4 out of the 5, or minimum 2/3 majority of the City Commission by state statute. And this would be the action requested.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4080, approving the rezoning request from Public and Institutional District PI to Residential Multifamily District R-M for the proposed Lincoln School apartment complex at 1906 Ash Street as legally described within the adopting ordinance.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Barrick and seconded by Commissioner Musil. Any discussion?
Just have a question. It's not really to the ordinance, but Jesse, on this property, the school owned this property, right?
The school did own this
They
property.
did own this, and the city really had nothing to do with when they sold it to the developer.
No, that was private transaction. I believe
Okay.
the school took bids on the
I-
property at that time, yeah.
I was just remembering a comment from a resident that was here a few months ago saying that, the city had something to do with, I can't remember what the comment was, but about how the price was different, and we had
They
nothing to do with it.
assumed we owned
They
it.
assumed we owned it, yeah, exactly. So, but we had nothing to do with it. That's,
We like to stay out of private transactions.
as
And
we should.
Just zoning clarification. Zoning uses is what we base our decisions on. If he changes what's on there, we can't make our decision based on what physical structures he's putting on there. Just the use of the property.
That's correct, and that's why we're often reluctant to tell you the exact planned use or planned concept for a property, because you are to base your decision off that entire list of uses that I showed you, either uses by right or uses as limited primarily. So yeah, if it gets rezoned, if he changes his mind tomorrow and something else comes along, but it's still allowed in the RM zoning, then that could be a use that could be constructed or developed on the property. Correct.
I think I made the comment last week that I'd spoken to one of the neighbors in that area, and they had come to the meeting, the Planning Commission meeting, I believe. And I wanted to thank Mr. Graham. I think you spoke with them afterwards. And when people actually get all the information they need and it's accurate information, things usually go pretty smoothly. And they were totally satisfied with the conversation. Anything?
I just think it's really, important for the city to not have like properties sit and deteriorate, but actually have, infill that is very positive for the community. And so, Michael's been really good at creating some developments for apartments within the city.
No new
limits.
infrastructure.
No new infrastructure, and I think that's very important and definitely to be commended.
Absolutely.
We don't have to have wonderful historic buildings sitting vacant because our people like Mike are taking them and letting people move into them.
So you're saying
So that's
be
somebody
like
that's gonna-
Mike.
We
Be
like
like
Mike.
Mike.
Yeah.
It's a great use for this property, and I know Mayor Jacobs mentioned it, but the fact that the parking was addressed, I think, is valuable as well. So, thank you.
The minute I heard that school was going to be abandoned, I hoped someone would pick it up, and I'd hope it was going to be Michael. So we appreciate that you did, sir. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're going to have a progress report because we have had progress. right? But I wondered if we'd ever get up there and just have one slide.
I don't think we ever.
I don't think so.
Not possible. Good afternoon, Colin Belzer, Deputy City Manager. So over the last month, Service Division did have to repair the street in the 500 block of West 16th Street after a water leak. Fortunately, they had to do the same thing near the intersection of Downing and General Custer. Here, 45 yards of concrete was used by the Service Division to repair the street near 12th and Canterbury. I believe it was for buckling reasons. And then the Service Division repaired curb, gutter, and pavement near 6th and Walnut. Recently, the fire department hosted a 2-day summit on understanding the risk of wildfires impacting the city. This was sponsored by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation and the Kansas Forest Service. Other national organizations involved were the International Associations of Fire Chiefs, International Associations of Firefighters, and National Volunteer Fire Council. Captain Kirk Klein provided an update to the Regional Homeland Security Council on the efforts of Hayes Fire Department's technical rescue team. This is something he meets quarterly with the council to discuss about what the Hayes Fire Department's doing. Ellis County Public Works helped the city chip seal and roll the golf course parking lot that's on the left, and then after the golf course chip seal is complete, the Parks Department laid out the parking line locations, and the Service Department painted, and then new arrows were also painted to assist with traffic flow. Recently, staff made needed repairs to the irrigation system after sprinkler checks were performed. And then at Bickelschmidt, unfortunately, in the women's restroom, a broken pipe damaged the sheetrock and insulation, so 2 new access panels were installed to help with maintenance and obviously repair that ceiling. At the solid waste facility, several technological advancements were implemented, most notable of which is an upgraded network connection and voice over internet protocol phones throughout the facility, along with the features that come with VoIP. The Hayes Police Department participated in the 25 Kansas Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ellis County Duck Derby on August 6th. Also, who attended, I'll just say, is the fire department as well as water resources, but only the police submitted the picture for theirs.
I could probably get my hands on some pictures.
The Hayes Police Department had a great time at the Fort Hays State Back to School picnic. Officers interacted with students as a return for the school year. Sean Swift and Julio Aris replaced the mechanical seal and reinstalled the pump at the Dakota lift station. And then reclamation staff are loading stored biosolids from the drying beds onto the biosolid spreader truck to be hauled out and applied to the farm ground nearby. And then recently they installed new filter panels. This was a budgeted project for the tertiary filter. Currently, what they installed them with was stainless steel. There were 504 panels that needed to be replaced.
So is it now drinkable water?
It's always been drinkable. Right, Crispin?
Just curious.
So the filters are housed in the tertiary filter building, and then the second picture is what the water looks like after it processes through the filters. On August 17th, Janet Kuhn provided tour guide services to a U.S. Tours bus tour out of Peoria, Illinois. The group was even able to catch Pete Felton working in his workshop. And CVB staff also participated in the Fort Hays State's back-to-school picnic on August 18th. Progress on the lift station replacement is going well. The pump platform has been set on top of the new wet well. This is on Old Highway 40. And they'll be getting installed soon, and then the culvert pipe for the new entrance is in. And then 13th Street is fully open after reconstruction, just in time for the start of school. There are a few non-critical items remaining that will be completed in the next few weeks. As Mayor Jacob said, Representative Mann was out to visit the airport this past Friday. That's it.
Very good. Are we having any happenings?
I will be doing this as well.
Stepping right in.
With a Mississippi accent.
Yeah, happening time.
Y'all.
The Sternberg Museum summer exhibit, Animal Armor, will be on display through September. And the Ellis County Historical Society Museum's current exhibit, A Place to Call Home, will close on September 20th. The Downtown Hayes Market, located under the Downtown Pavilion, and the Hayes Fresh Produce Market at Boomgar's parking lot will both continue to sell on Saturday mornings through September. The Fox Theater presents the Eli Young Band on September 5th and Paramount on September 26th for their Oktoberfest after party. And then Fort Hays State Tigers Fitness will once again host the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb and Walk at Lewis Field. Registration for the event is free, and this year's event will take place on Saturday, September 6th, to avoid conflicting with the home football game. The annual Wine and Steins event will take place September 6th from 6 to 9:30 p.m. Tickets include 12 curated stops downtown, and patrons must be 21 and older to participate. The Flying Bison Disc Club will host the 41st Annual Frontier Open Disc Golf Tournament on September 6th and 7th in Frontier Park with 180 participants.
That's a really big deal. I don't think we give enough credit to those guys and the work that they've done on this course, and get 180 people in this, and bringing them into this town to participate. It's a fun event. People should get out and at least see a little bit of it.
And that course is what, one of the first, 100 courses in the country?
I think it was one of the first in Kansas, I know. So.
Highly ranked course.
Very highly ranked, yeah.
The Hayes Prairie Winds Kite Show will be a two-day event this year on September 6th and 7th at the Bickelschmidt Sports Complex, and admission is free.
Pray for wind.
The only day we'll do that?
Go Truck Go will take place Thursday, September 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. between Early Childhood Connections and Cross Point Church, and this is a free event for all ages. There'll also be citywide garage sale to bring out the bargain hunters, September 12th and 13th at locations throughout Hayes. And the Hayes Community Theater will present the Paula, I'm going to go with Huser's Children's Theater production of King Midas and the Touch of Gold on September 12th through 14th at the Hayes Community Theater location at 121 East 8th Street. And then the Hayes Police Department and the Hayes CVB will partner on Pedal Patrol in the Park. It's a bike and scooter safety event on Saturday, September 13th from 11 to 2 at Obel Bickel. This new event will include bike safety checks, rules of the road safety demonstration, and rides with Hayes PD Bike Patrol officers, food trucks, and more.
Colin, can you go back to that, please?
Yes.
Can we be sure that we have, I would know we'll do a lot of promotion, but if we can actually get that into the schools, I think that would be really important. If there's a way to get handouts into the schools that they could take home.
I think we did.
Did we get
I think
that?
I saw something, yeah.
Very
So
good,
there will be.
very good.
Team Peace homecoming activities will begin with their bonfire Thursday, September 18th at 7 p.m. and then Main Street Parade Friday at 5:30, followed by the football game at 7. Hayes Symphony will present their Fall Classics concert entitled Simply Strings at a special location in St. Joseph Church on September 20th at 7:30 p.m. Hayes High homecomings activities will begin with their bonfire Thursday, September 25th at 8:30 p.m. Parade Friday at 5, followed by football game at their brand new stadium at 7. And then the Fort Hays State's homecoming activities will begin with their bonfire Thursday, September 25th at 7:30 p.m. Parade Saturday morning at 11 a.m., followed by the football game at 7. And then finally, the 53rd Annual Oktoberfest will once again be a two-day affair in Municipal Park, starting Friday, September 26th at 10:30 and wrapping up Saturday, September 27th at 6 p.m. And I shouldn't have said finally, because I won't get Melissa saying right, but there's plenty more events.
Plenty more events.
Visit Hayes.com. She should have put that in the notes for me.
The only other event I want to add is on Saturday, September 13th as well, is the Out of the Darkness Suicide Walk down at Frontier Park. You can Google Out of the Darkness Hayes, and you can sign teams up for Suicide Awareness Month for that walk.
Make sure to get that out too, if it's not, Melissa's not aware of it already.
Yeah, I'm assuming she is.
She probably is. Thank you, Colin. Commissioners, Commissioner Musil?
Mayor, I want to ask if Mr. Dreyer would come back up and talk about what he talked about in citizen comments. You kind of had me, I wasn't thinking you were going to say that, and just made me think the whole meeting. You had said if we could donate some ground, you think you could build a $150,000 house?
Even then, it'd be hard. On those little tiny houses that I'm building,
Right.
I'm gonna have more than that in those.
I know.
So to build a $150,000 house, even with free land, I don't know if that's even doable. So.
Well, I was just, we all seen that on YouTube from the Fort Hays students.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I don't know the couple, they can't remember how they said it. They wanted to, I don't know if it was a new house, but they wanted to buy a house for 90,000. That's all they could afford. I don't think you can build a house for that.
No, I mean, appliances alone
I
are
mean-
$8,000. I mean, yeah, you can't. The concrete alone is, I mean, just all the projects I've done, there's no possible way to do it. So I would love for there to be a way if you could.
Yeah, I just, when you said that, it just got me thinking, so I was
Yeah.
just, so, okay.
Well, I
Short of
think it's-
buying, buying a sawmill and doing your own, making your own
Right.
lumber, that might be a way.
Yeah.
Well, as Doug says, the moving up, start somewhere. And
Right.
I think, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but, and I got married 100 years ago, but we paid $2,450 for a mobile home to live in. Lived there a few years and paid $16,850 to buy the next house. And we worked our butts off the whole time to get there. Now, that was a different time, but you have to start somewhere. And these houses that are opening up as we're filling in the others are certainly helping. They're not solving the problem by any means, but they're certainly helping.
Yeah, I think the confusion is everybody thinks that affordable means that anybody should be able to buy a brand new house,
Right.
and that's not. It's just not how
Right.
it works. So it's a trickle effect. It opens
Right.
it down the line. So.
And as Doug said, defining low income, either in what is low income and then what is low income housing is very difficult. You can find 10 definitions tomorrow if I put my head
Well,
to it.
compared to Sean, we're all low income. So.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for
You
letting
better
me
look in
put
the
you
mirror,
back
buddy.
up there.
I thought you were calling him back up here about the Chick-fil-A comment.
We won't even go there.
I see that enough from
We're
him.
not doing that.
House that Doug's tearing down, we can put Chick-fil-A there.
Or a trampoline park, or whatever you say.
Combine
I
them.
don't know.
Anything else, Commissioner Musil?
I think that's enough.
Thank you. Commissioner Barry?
I saw that a thing where they could make these little domes out of like Legos now that they can like 1,500 square feet for 45,000. So you know,
Sure.
I saw it on a reel. So
In
it's
Kansas?
got to be true, right?
I don't know. You could do a teepee.
Yeah. I'm just excited with everybody that came here today to see some of the progress and see some of the things that has been intentionally done over the last few years to, you know, get more housing in this community and the things that have been done and how that really is starting to move on to more private developers because they see that things can be successful. And so I think that's been huge. But I'm really just looking forward to the fact that it's opening night for Fort Hays football. And so I'm getting excited to be able to go check out the Tigers and looking forward to a fun year.
Commissioner Cunningham?
I think one of the most impactful things we heard tonight is, and I'm going to steal Mayor Jacobs' word, is collaboration. If you noticed any trend through multiple presentations tonight, is that these projects aren't happening by one person or one entity. It is a multitude of people and timing coming together and joining their efforts to make these projects all come forward. And I think that that piece is very important, and it cannot happen without that. So I wanted to touch on that. And then tomorrow, I know it's technically August, so it wouldn't have been in the September happenings, but tomorrow is Hayes High's Maroon and Gold. There's also their ribbon cutting, so 5 o'clock. You can tour the new high school if you haven't had a chance to be in there. They have an open house, and then you can watch a soccer scrimmage and football scrimmage. So lots of activities. Have a safe Labor Day as well.
You can take my word anytime you want.
Okay.
It's a good word.
Commissioner Reuter?
Yeah, I won't touch on more than what you guys already talked about. I mean, it's really important to see what's going on in the community for sure. One thing I will talk about is the meeting we had last night with Russell and us, joint meeting to talk about the status of the R9 water project. Basically from its inception in the early 90s to today, where it's at, what's happening with it. I mean, I think one of the things that people should realize is the almost 250,000 pages worth of information that has been gathered for that project, identifying that this is the project that meets the needs of these communities for this specific time with the amount of water available in one location that we were able to secure on the open market back in the 90s. Basically able to voice our frustration in a a system that has caused 10 years of regulatory delays. 10 years. We celebrated the 10-year anniversary of our application submission in June 26th of this year. 10 years for regulatory pieces that we win at every turn. Gets appealed, we win. Gets appealed, we win. Just very, very frustrating. I know we kind of talked about it last night, Governor Kelly and the Water Task Force, that one of our own representatives of Ellis County and advocate for us, Representative Rogers, is on that committee, wants to focus on water sustainability for Kansas at the state level. And we are, I think Commissioner Barrick said it last night, we are the poster child, or should be the poster child, for that kind of sustainability. We are almost half, or at least a quarter, water per capita less than majority of the rest of the communities in the state. And we've been doing it for decades. I grew up with the water conservation programs through elementary school, middle school, high school. My kids are starting to get it now in school. We just understand what it means to be water smart, conserve, and do it right, and also be good neighbors to those down in Edwards County. What we've done to that property of restoring it back to natural grasses, grazing it appropriately, identifying invasive species, and taking care of that Chris is taking care of down there for us, which also, in turn, helps replenish that aquifer that they also use down there. And then we opened the ranch up to walk-in hunting that has seen people from, I think, almost every state in the country, and some people from down in or up in Canada have come down and hunted there. And over the last 4 months, the Edwards County economic impact was a 20% increase in economic impact to Kinsley because of walk-in hunting down there, which is huge. We want them to survive. We want them to be a part of this. This is a regional effort that we unfortunately have to be the guinea pigs for. But if anybody's going to do it, I think we're the ones to do it. We were forward thinking. A lot of these houses, and people are like, well, we're building all these houses, we don't have water. Yeah. Well, we have water for now. We hit a multi-decadal drought. Then we start running into issues. But we were forward thinking enough to identify a source to get it ready so we can have 50, 75, 100 years worth of water, as long as we can continue to be conservative with our water. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. The meeting last night with Russell was a really good meeting, putting the two commissioners, it's council in Russell, but it's commission here, and putting us together and getting the update that we got. We get updates all the time, but having it in one meeting, in one concise bit of information was really, really good. Our attorney from Wichita, David Traster, was there, gave a great overview. John Brown did a great job. Chris was there to talk about the walk-in hunting, et cetera. It was a really good meeting. I probably got pretty frustrated at the end, and that's the only soundbite they picked up at KWCH, but that's okay. It's not really the judicial. I said the judicial system hasn't done us any favors, I think was what I said. And what I mean is Edwards County is using every statute and law available to them. The process, the time it takes in the process is difficult. If they file one thing and we could act on it within a month or even 2 months, that would be fine. But every time something is filed, it's stretched out. And I was really thinking about it after we came home last night, Toby. I don't think we've lost one issue, have we, Don?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, we've lost nothing substantive.
Yeah.
We've been on the bad end of some procedural delays, but everything of substance we won, and actually won pretty handily.
It's just time, and Toby shared about the dairy in Dodge City area in Finney County. That took 6 months to have the water issue taken care of that they needed. We're on 10 years, so I think somebody needs to be stepping up louder than us. I thought we were pretty loud, but I did misspeak just a little bit last night. It's not the judicial system; it's the judicial timing.
Equal application of the law.
Equal application of the law. I knew there was the word for it. We have executive session. Oh, don't forget, 9 o'clock in the morning for the the ribbon cutting at the community center, and don't miss seeing Hayes High. If you haven't been out there to see that school, take the time to go tomorrow night, because it's pretty amazing. Even the outdoor facilities as well as the indoor.
Go Tigers.
No executive session, we're adjourned. Thank you.